According to the National MS Society, nearly 1 million people, about 913,925 people in the U.S. are living with multiple sclerosis. Joining us now to talk about multiple sclerosis, as March is National MS Month, is Sonda Rossman, the Vice President of Business Development and Research at the Michigan Institute for Neurological Disorders. Sonda, thank you for being with us today.
Hi, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
I appreciate having you on to talk about MS. So I'm sure many people have heard of multiple sclerosis. Many, however, may not know exactly what causes MS and the physiological effects that it can have on people, which are quite varying. So if you could, if you would, please give us an overview of what from the medical community's knowledge causes MS, and what are some of the different ways that it can affect people's bodies?
Well, we don't actually know the full cause. Most recently, a new study was published, an actually well-designed study showing that a correlation between the Epstein-Barr virus as a viral trigger for multiple sclerosis. So most people with MS will have the antibodies that have been exposed to Epstein-Barr virus. That doesn't mean that everyone who has Epstein-Barr virus is going to develop MS. We think it's a number of factors that contribute to the diagnosis, and genetic issues. It's not fully genetic. It's putting the pieces of a puzzle together to even diagnose it. But the fact that there's been a lot of speculation over the years that there must be a viral trigger to a lot of autoimmune disorders, and MS is considered autoimmune disease, meaning that your own immune system turns against particular antigen that they detect in the body, and so the negative thing that they want to attack, which unfortunately in multiple sclerosis is the brain and spinal cord. That can then lead to varying degrees of symptoms and ultimately, resulting in quality of life issues.
So there are multiple forms of multiple sclerosis that can affect people in different ways. Can you talk about the different, really the predominant forms of multiple sclerosis and the different ways, that it takes a toll on somebody's brain and spinal cord and ultimately their body, but also who those different forms of multiple sclerosis really usually affect?
Right. So again, like you said, about 1 million people in the U.S. Have now been diagnosed. Several years, probably even up to 10 years ago, we thought that was only 400,000. We've gotten a lot better at diagnosing and treating patients. The predominant category, I guess, is what's called relapsing remitting. Patients have a relapse or an exacerbation of symptoms, and those symptoms can present in various different ways depending on what area of the body or brain or spinal cord is affected. And then that's the predominant patient population. And then they'll go into what's called a remission, where they recover from that, many times without any sustained disability. However, over time, it's a progressive disease, or can be without treatment. And then patients many times can then take on a form called secondary progressive MS, which either has relapses or doesn't have relapses. And then we have what's called primary progressive MS, which is a much smaller population of patients. However, it's a much more debilitating form of the disorder. Typically, those patients start out, it takes time to determine whether they're primary progressive, but over time, they'll have a consistent progression of disability.
We're joined by Sonda Rossman. She's the Vice President of Business Development and Research at the Michigan Institute for Neurological Disorders, otherwise known as MIND, joining us on the Oakland County MegaCast. And so what are the symptoms of MS, and what are the ranging severities of those symptoms among those 4 classifications, so to speak, of multiple sclerosis that you just overviewed?
Yeah, so MS can present in a number of different ways in patients. It's different for most patients. Many times early presentation will be what we call optic neuritis, which is a potential visual disturbance in one eye, whether it's visual loss up to double vision. That is a lot of times the presenting symptoms for a lot of patients. And then it can be something as simple as sensory disturbance, a numb or tingliness. to bowel bladder issues, weakness, gait disturbance, their balance is off, and, again, cognitive issues, fatigue are very, very common. There's a phenomenon called cognitive fog that most MS patients can relate to, and it's interesting with COVID how, there's this phenomenon of like a cognitive fog, and it's definitely very, I think, similar to what MS patients sort of experience more consistently, which has been hard to measure and capture, but we're getting better at that with certain neuropsychological assessments, and then we can do work on, again, if you don't use it, you lose it. So we try to keep people engaged, keep people active, et cetera.
We're joined by the Vice President of Business Development and Research at the Michigan Institute of Neurological Disorders, or MIND, Sonda Rossman, with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Learn more information and get in contact with the Michigan Institute of Neurological Disorders by visiting their website at mindonline.com. That is mindonline.com. And so, Sonda, related to multiple sclerosis, my dad has MS. He was diagnosed in the summer of 2010 at the age of 50 with multiple sclerosis. He had similar symptoms to what he has been feeling over the last 12 years that he has known he's had MS, well before he was diagnosed. So with that, when generally are people diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and what typically is the process of them going from relaying their symptoms to a doctor or to a neurologist, and then ultimately being diagnosed and then hopefully soon after begin treatment for MS?
Yeah, so again, it depends on the sort of severity of the symptoms, right? A vision loss is going to probably trigger someone to go to an ophthalmologist or an eye doctor initially to say what's going on, which then when they identify that there's inflammation in the optic nerve, they're going to potentially send the patient to a neurologist or specialist. Numbness and tingling, again, could it be carpal tunnel? A lot of people dismiss those things. They don't really think about it. Pain, there's certain things that depends on that person's threshold. Some people, are more concerned and they go to their primary care, and their primary care will then refer them to a neurologist, typically, or should refer them to a neurologist, I should say. And then others, again, will wait. And, it sounds like with your dad, he probably just thought I'm getting older. It's, part of whatever, and just tried to kind of muscle through, which a lot of people will do. What we do know is that treating early is very, very important. So, and we're able to diagnose much earlier now. So I too have multiple sclerosis. My first symptoms were in 1991, but there were no treatments. The criteria was very different, and it was very difficult to diagnose, and there wasn't anything you could do about it anyway. And then finally, I had to wait for what was considered a second clinical attack, which occurred in 1994, and that's when I was actually diagnosed. At that time, though, there was one therapy, and a second therapy was coming out soon that seemed more suitable for me, just given the nature of it was an injection, and in terms of being compliant and adhering to it, I had a better chance with this next drug. But starting that drug is what triggered creating a comprehensive multiple sclerosis research and infusion center at MIND. And so for us, it has always been getting on treatment as soon as possible, give patients the best chance for outcomes. Now we have over 22 therapies to treat MS, which is pretty amazing.
So you mentioned those 22 therapies. There are multiple different forms of treatment or strategies for treatment. And so what's the prognosis with multiple sclerosis? Because as I mentioned, my dad was diagnosed at 50. He has MS. My uncle, my mom's brother, also has MS. And there seems to be two different kind of outcomes there between the two of them. My dad's physical symptoms tend to be more severe than my uncle's symptoms. Now, he's also much younger and has been more prolonged activity before his diagnosis. But what sort of factors go into the effectiveness of these treatments, and what treatments are available for people across the ranging classifications of multiple sclerosis?
Yeah, so, that's a complicated question because every patient's different. We do have, fellowships in multiple sclerosis now. So I would say it's important that you go to an MS specialist. We have several here that's what they're pretty much dedicated to. And now not even just a general neurologist, because there's so many therapies and treatments, and because it really needs to be, it's a partnership with the patient. This is a chronic disease that isn't going away for now. We don't have a cure yet. We're working on that. But a cure is very different for someone who doesn't have the disease yet. We want to prevent them from getting it. And then people who have the disease, who are functioning okay, can we just stop it and keep them safe and no progression? And then patients who are have more progression, we need repair and neurorestorative therapies. So a lot of those are still yet to come. But the fact that we have options now that patients can try, there's a lot of variables that go into picking what maybe should be we think should be the best treatment for a patient, but that patient also has to take the drug, want to take it. There's injectables, there's oral therapies, and then there's infusion therapies. And again, we have a range of 22 that people can actually, have an impact on their disease.
We're joined by Sonda Rossman, the Vice President of Business Development and Research at the Michigan Institute for Neurological Disorders, otherwise known as MIND. Learn more information, visit our website at mindonline.com. That's mindonline.com. And so you had mentioned earlier you played a critical role in the creation of the MS Center at MIND. It has an MS Center and an infusion center over there. Give us some details on what sort of treatment people can undergo at the Michigan Institute for Neurological Disorders and the work that your center does.
Yeah, so MIND is a pretty extraordinary place. It was originally created as a private neurology practice, which to serve as one of the largest private neurology practices in the state, and had the first private MRI, and at the time we had a CT scanner. We've now just expanded, and we now have subspecialties of centers of excellence. We were recognized by the National MS Society as a comprehensive MS center of care in partnership with them, which is a wonderful distinction. We have a dedicated headache pain center, Parkinson Movement Disorder Center with amazing, we have 30 providers. We offer on-site testing, electrodiagnostics, EEG, EMG, OCT, 2 MRIs, like I said, open bore, meaning that they're bigger so patients feel less claustrophobic, and you can see your doctor. And then if you need an infusion of something, whether it's for migraine, whether it's for an acute relapse of MS, whether it's for treatment of disease-modifying therapy for your MS, CIDP, myasthenia, something called NMO, spectrum disorder, neuromyelitis optica, which is on the spectrum of MS, but however, a very different disease. And the amazing thing is that there's so many more therapies now that are becoming available. And we're part of those research, the research that's being done on that. So we can offer patients options even earlier many times than they otherwise would have, waiting for FDA approval.
And so you mentioned that the Michigan Institute of Neurological Disorders initially was a quite extensive, quite large private practice. It's now delving, of course, into treatment, as you mentioned, with the MS Center, with the infusion centers, the other specialties that are specifically studied and are treated through MIND at this moment in time. On the research front, particularly for multiple sclerosis, what kind of research is being done by MIND at this time? And what are some of the more recent and interesting discoveries or things that you and others and your colleagues over at MIND are looking into regarding multiple sclerosis?
Right. So again, we've gotten better at diagnosing and classifying patients typically. And again, from MS, there may even be, we're now finding that there's other disorders that maybe appear to be MS, but aren't. And so we are able to now isolate those and try to target and treat those. But for MS research, again, we've come such a long way since the late 90s, mid 90s when I was diagnosed, and again have been part of some of the most important therapies that exist. And currently now there's a new class of drugs called BTKI, or tyrosine kinase inhibitors, which seem to be very safe and seem to be very effective and work on 2 different components of the immune system. No data has been published. This is most companies though have this class of drugs. It seems to be very, very promising as another oral alternative for patients. And then neurorestorative therapies are huge, right? We want to repair the damage that's done from MS. So MS, your immune system's attacking your brain and spinal cord, the coating over the nerves that disrupts conduction of the nerves, which then can result in blindness, paralysis, sensory disturbance, cognitive issues, fatigue, etc. So if we can somehow restore that connection in some way, that's sort of the ideal scenario. Unfortunately, to date, none of the therapies have been able to prove that. They have on a very small scale, but not generalizable to the larger population. But there's still a lot of work being done, and there's a lot of repair therapies still sort of in the pipeline, and that's what we're hoping. And then, of course, the Epstein-Barr virus, component. If we can find a vaccine or a way to stop, the disease from happening to younger individuals, or if we can, for the people who already have it, if we can prevent the progression of the disease for those, but we still need a repair of damage that's been done. So we're trying.
So Sonda, in your research and in the research of your colleagues, both at Mind and in the wider medical community, neurological medicine community, people may be wondering, like they do with any other condition, is multiple sclerosis genetic?
Yeah. So there is a genetic, again, there's a genetic component, but it's not fully genetic. In monozygotic twins, you would expect that if one twin got it, then 100% of the time, the other twin would get it. But it really is only about 50% of the time that other. So there's a genetic component with what we think is a viral trigger now, potentially Epstein-Barr virus. And then is it, again, are there other environmental factors that contribute to the perfect storm of why certain people develop this or any other disorder, really. But
so for individuals or for people who have those with MS in their life, what support systems what support systems exist for those both living with MS and for those that may be assisting with those living with MS in their life or taking care of those with MS in their life?
Well, don't underestimate the importance of the caregiver and the support of family and friends and whatever that person's sort of network is, including their healthcare team. And that's what it should be, a partnership, a team approach to taking care of people. And that's what we try to really focus and emphasize on here. We have dedicated MS doctors, MS certified nursing. Again, we refer out for physical therapy, but, keeping people's minds, bodies, nutrition, it's a comprehensive approach, right? This is your body, and we need to try to preserve as much as possible until buying time until we can find that cure. And we've done a really good job. We have disease-modifying therapies now that can actually sort of halt the process. It's not perfect, and it doesn't reverse symptoms or damage that's been done. But if we can stop that and buy time until better therapies come out, that's really what we're trying to do. And for a lot of people, they just go on leading completely normal lives, and you would never know that they have MS. For others, not as great. We do have a therapy, the first therapy that was approved for primary progressive MS. It's about 24% effective, but it's something, again, to buy a population of patients who didn't have anything. They now at least have some way to fight back for the disease. And again, being on a therapy is incredibly empowering and really important for patients. And so part of why this MS Center was created is truly to give patients access to care and therapy the way that, fundamentally myself and my late husband who co-created the center felt that it was important you take care of people.
We're joined by Sonda Rossman, the Vice President of Business Development and Research at the Michigan Institute for Neurological Disorders on the Oakland County Megacast. Again, their website, mindonline.com, mindonline.com. Sonda, before we let you go, anything else that would be important for our audience to know about the work being done at Mind at this time or about multiple sclerosis?
Yeah, Mind, again, we hope we don't have to see you, but we're here if you need us. And it's the goal was one stop. Basically, you're able to come here to get as many things as you need in one place, which can preserve the person, close proximity parking, your caregiver. If you can have all your testing, diagnostics, treatment, and your doctor visit in one place, it's really a beneficial thing all around, cost efficient for payers, and convenient, and really some of the best care that you could ever receive. We're very proud of our center.
Sonda, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Appreciate
Stay safe. Stay healthy, everybody.